Srila Prabhupada is giving so many beautiful examples how just as the material elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether, they are permanent, but their manifestations, their mixtures, are temporary. Sometimes earth, water, fire, air, ether, they formulate themselves into an earthen pot. That pot may last for 10, 15 years. Ultimately, the pot dissolves back into the earth. What is the difference? The form has changed, but the 5 elements remain exactly the same. They just transformed from one form to another. In this way, material energy is eternal, and the ingredients of material energy are eternal. It is only the specific manifestations that are temporary. And we are such crazy fools that despite all lofty big philosophy, we still cannot overcome attachment to the misconception that we are the grossest, most externalized transformations of these material ingredients. We have not even come to the realization that we are composed of earth, water, fire, air, and ether. If we did, we would understand that we're permanent. The physical body is permanent. Aparayamitasvanyam prakritim virime param. Beyond that is the soul, which is eternal, which is undying. Nahanyate anyamane sarire. Does not die when the body is. We are only under the conception, the conditioned souls, that this very, very grossest, most external, particular form in which the mixture of the ingredients of material nature have formulated, that we are that. Such an illusion. And we are reading here this morning a wonderful thing. In this world, how many people even consider that they are not this body? The materialists never consider it. And of all the great religions of the world, there's hardly a person that really seriously considers that they're not this body. Most people, their religion is they speak some philosophy, they hear some pravachan, they go to the temple, the church, the synagogue, the mosque, they do their puja. But they never really grasp the idea that I'm not this body and live according to that principle. But here we find Kamsa. Kamsa was an asura, but he knew this very well. Obviously, he was not realized in the subject. But intellectually, he was a very great scholar of the Vedas. Intellectually, as we're going to read in the next few verses, his preaching is exactly non-different than the acaryas of the Gaudiya Vaishnava sampradaya. It's true. Is there anything different what he's saying here in this verse? One who does not understand the constitutional position of the body and soul becomes too attached to the bodily concept of life. Consequently, because of attachment to the body and its byproducts, he feels affected by union with and separation from his family, society, and nation. As long as this continues, one continues his material life. My dear Sister Devaki, all good fortune unto you. Everyone suffers and enjoys the results of his own work under the control of providence. Therefore, although your sons have unfortunately been killed by me, please do not lament them. In the bodily conception of life, one remains in darkness, without self-realization, thinking, I am being killed, I have killed my enemies. As long as a foolish person thus considers the self to be the killer or the killed, he continues to be responsible for material obligations, and consequently he suffers the reactions of happiness and distress. Now these verses, if I were to just read the verse, not tell you where it's from, and I was saying, this is spoken by Ramanujacharya. Yes, of course. This is spoken by Madhva. Yes, Madhva, he is speaking very nice philosophy. This is spoken by Rupa Goswami. Yes, of course, Rupa Goswami is teaching us this very pure knowledge. I were to give any of the names of the acaryas to these verses, you would accept, yes, this is their philosophy, this is what they are teaching. But I will inform you that this is spoken by Kamsa, the enemy of God, the persecutor of the Vaishnavas. How is it possible? He has great academic knowledge, but he has one thing missing, the humble spirit of service. The whole purpose of all this knowledge is to bring us to the point of devotional service. Unless we apply that principle of humble devotional service to our life, all our knowledge is like the jewel on the head of a serpent. It looks very beautiful, but what is the use? Actually, jewel on head of serpent makes the serpent more dangerous, because he's so beautiful and attractive that we think, oh, very nice, I want to be with this serpent. because he has a nice jewel. But the fact is, he's just as venomous, as envious, as a serpent without a jewel. So therefore, here Kamsa, he's appearing to be a very great sadhu. He's speaking a nice pravachan here. But his life is a different thing. He has not adopted the humble spirit of service. Nasta prayeshu vadreshu nityam bhagavati sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishta shushushro shuddhanasya vasudeva kataruchi syanmahat sevaya vipra punjatyatana sevan. That by serving the great souls, the taste for really hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam awakens in our heart. This is the principle. We must simultaneously hear and chant in the mood of devotional service. That was Kamsa's one defect. He had all the information, he had all the intellectual, philosophical prowess, but he did not have the service attitude. And therefore, nobody cares about Kamsa. Nobody quotes Kamsa. Although he's saying the same things, no one wants to quote Kamsa. Hiranyakashipu also, in the 7th canto, he was speaking very, very wonderful, pure philosophy. But how many times do we hear the great acaryas quoting Hiranyakashipu or Kamsa? They're saying the same thing, but nobody will be inspired by hearing their words. Haridas Thakur explained that a preacher is one who preaches by his example. And therefore the difference between a demon and a devotee is a devotee always has his senses under the control of the devotional service of the Lord. The yogis and the jnanis, they also oftentimes have their senses under control. They do not indulge in any types of sinful activities or sense gratification in the gross forms, but they are not putting their senses under the control of Krishna through devotional service. That is the difference between a devotee and all other classes of men. Actually, Prabhupada is explaining here that Kamsa is better than the modern politicians and diplomats because he had this higher intelligence, this higher knowledge. And because of that, he was so fortunate, he was directly punched in the head by Krishna. The modern politicians are just kicked in the head by Maya. Krishna personally punched Kamsa and liberated him. So that is his special qualification. Prabhupada explains that he was Krishna conscious. Not only did he understand the philosophy very well intellectually, but he was also constantly thinking of Krishna. Probably more than any of us. He was out of fear. He was constantly thinking of Krishna. His whole life was centered around killing Krishna. But this is not favorable for devotional service. It's unfavorable devotion. It's unfavorable Krishna consciousness. So Srila Prabhupada explains if Kamsa, because he was always thinking of Krishna in such an unfavorable, envious, revengeful way, what to speak of a devotee who thinks of Krishna with love? What will be his destination?
You were listening to Radhanath Swami on thesacredconnect.com.